Thank you. Question number 4, Willie Rennie.
Can I thank the First Minister for advance sight of the statement? We are now facing months more under the thumb of this virus. The First Minister says Test and Protect is working well. But when I asked her in committee yesterday, Professor Linda Bald warned that the test half isn't fully working and is causing concern. She added that if we can't get rapid testing, we really are in trouble. She also said that quarantine is not being followed. Only 1 in 4 people say they fully comply. Does the First Minister really think that what she is doing on testing and quarantining is enough?
First Minister.
No, I don't think that anything that these things that any of us are doing right now are necessarily enough. That's why we continue to support, expand and build resilience of these systems. I think Test and Protect is working well, and I think the evidence is there to support that. The test part of Test and Protect, as I was talking in detail about to Ruth Davidson, is part of a networked UK system. There are aspects of that that we require to cooperate with the UK Government to ensure that any challenges are overcome and any concerns are addressed. I do have a concern, I don't want to overstate this, that rising demand in other parts of the UK could have an impact on capacity or turnaround times in Scotland, but we work and will continue to work through those. We're all trying to achieve the same things, and we will continue to work constructively with other governments across the UK in expanding testing, both in terms of capacity resilience and also new technology that allows testing to be done in a different way and much more rapidly. We've procured here in Scotland already tests that are done much more quickly at point of care. So these things are important on an ongoing basis. The Protect part of Test and Protect is probably working even better in the numbers that are published, and again, we are not complacent about these, and this is where I think Scotland is doing perhaps a bit better than some other parts of the UK. We are seeing well over 90% of contacts traced, well over 90% of index cases traced, and well over 90% of contacts. On quarantine, I accept the challenges around quarantine, both in terms of the challenges for the travelling public and airports and airlines, but also the challenges of any system of being absolutely watertight and foolproof. And therefore, we have to look at both how we tighten that up and look at alternative ways, and we continue to do that. None of this is straightforward, none of this is easy, but it is all important to try to keep this virus under control. What I would say, and it relates back to Patrick Harvey's comment, is that we should be very vigilant about the situation we're in right now. We should be very cautious. We should hear the warning signs very loudly. But we should also reflect on the progress we have made since the earlier part of the year. We are in a stronger position, and that hopefully means if we all, government especially, do the right things and the public all, as they have done so well, get behind all of the public health advice, then we don't have to accept the inevitability of what might otherwise happen. We can all have an impact in keeping it under control.
Willie Rennie.
I would urge the First Minister to read the full transcript of yesterday's committee, because the Professor Bald was very concerned about the first half of Test and Protect and the testing capacity and the testing utilisation. And she also was very concerned about the quarantine aspects as well, because as we've seen from this week's figures, over 800 people have now been missed by the quarantine spot checks. And when 1 in 4 are not complying, that is a real concern. We are turning a dark corner in people's hopes and expectations. In people's minds, we were preparing for recovery, for the elimination of the virus. Now we're being taken back. So I was very concerned about what Professor Bald also said yesterday, that when she warned about social unrest, I was very concerned about that. So can the First Minister say what plans she has on that front and how she will avoid that social unrest?
First Minister.
Can I say, firstly, before I come on to those comments, and all of us as elected politicians should see it as part of our duty to avoid social unrest and take the responsibility to explain and encourage the public to do the right things very seriously, and I think everybody across the chamber does that. On the issues of testing and quarantine, I am not blind to the challenges there at all. I take these things very seriously. With the test part of Test and Protect, we do, because of the way the system is structured, require to work with the UK government. That sometimes makes those challenges more difficult, but it is nevertheless the right thing to do to make sure we have that system operating across the whole of the UK. And on quarantine, one point actually that I don't think is fully understood about quarantine, although I accept its limitations and I accept the desirability of having alternative approaches, is that every single person who comes into the country who is required to quarantine, 100% of them are contacted by email. The phone call follow-up is the sample bit of that, so there is contact with everyone. But yes, we have to work hard to make the systems that we have in place to mitigate this all the more effective. Can I say, elimination is still and must still be our objective. Elimination is not a fixed point in time. We have always said we will go backwards and forwards as we come out of lockdown. It's not the same as eradication, which will only happen with a virus. But the reason we are being cautious again today is that we must continue to bear down on the rates of infection. What elimination means is that you drive it as low as possible and you don't simply accept a certain level is okay to circulate. So sometimes it will be higher than others, but the objective of driving it as low as possible remains absolutely essential. I will read the full transcript of Linda Ball, since it's been mentioned a couple of times, and as I said before, she's somebody I've got a huge amount of respect for. I think the point here is that as we go further through this pandemic, it gets harder for the public to follow all of this advice. It gets harder for all of us. I think every single one of us can identify with this. And therefore, the duty on all of us as politicians, principally me, and I accept that, is to explain as clearly as possible why we're asking people to do certain things and what the reasons for that is. And also to, where necessary, have enforcement in place, where people who are flagrantly breaching the law have consequences of that. If you're having a house party of several hundred people, for example. So that is important to make sure people understand we're not putting these restrictions on anybody for no reason. It is for good reason. And as we get further into this, the messages become more complex inevitably and people get more fatigued, which is why it's more important than ever that we continue to patiently and fully explain the reasons why all of this remains vital.
Thank you very much.